dark and difficult times lie ahead. Soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy.
Hi people. Unfortunately this is a bit of a sombre video today. It's not one of my usual upbeat and hilariously comedic style. I heard about this anyway, but somebody mentioned this to me as well in some comments. So although I already heard about this, I just want to thank one of my subscribers, Condemned. Just want to thank you for the link that you sent me yesterday. I don't really know where to start, to be honest. I mean, we all know that, the rise in violent crimes, knife crime, gun crime, etc., is been exponential recently. Here in Liverpool, there's been multiple, over the past few weeks, there's been multiple stabbings, multiple firearm discharges, people shooting at people or at houses. There was a petrol bomb attack on a house just the other day as well. Luckily, the petrol bomb didn't ignite. I don't quite understand how that happened, but it didn't ignite and the people in the house were safe. But this whole thing is really starting to get me down. And I know it's not just me. I know there's lots of people out there who are suffering. I mean, thankfully, I don't know personally anybody who has been killed via a violent crime. But I know there are people out there that have in the past or that may in the near future. Hopefully not, but unfortunately it's impossible to say in this day and age. This year alone, there has been 90 investigations, murder investigations opened by Scotland Yard. That's just this year, 90 murder investigations opened by Scotland Yard. 15 of those murder investigations were teenagers. Okay, the victims were teenagers. And 14 of those 15 teenagers had fatal injuries. They died. Just let that sink in for a minute. 90 murder investigations. 15 of them were teenagers. And 14 of those 15 teenagers had fatal injuries and died. Now, I was going to say the most recent one I've heard of, or it was at the time, was the Camden stabbing. 16-year-old boy who was chased through the streets and then stabbed with what they say was a 12-inch machete, another machete, 12 inches. That's going to go right through you, It's not a puncture wound. That is going through you all the way. The lad is said to have been banging on doors asking for help, and unfortunately nobody let him in. Now, I can understand in some circumstances and in some places why that might be the case, why people would be reluctant to let somebody in, but some of these people are saying, some of the witnesses are saying that they saw the boy was being chased as well. If somebody banged on my door and I saw a gang of people out on the pavement, I would let him in. But there's people out there that wouldn't. And I do understand why. Because you don't know what's going on. A lot of people are frightened. They don't want to get involved. But listen, man, as human beings, we have a responsibility to each other. Forgetting the uniforms, forgetting the positions, the job titles, forgetting all of that. As people, as human beings, we have a responsibility to one another. I know there's people out there that feel that they've got no responsibility to anybody apart from themselves. I get that, but we have to we have to help each other in times of need, and this is a time of need. When I read about this 16-year-old in Camden, the very first thing that came into my mind is my middle son, who is 16, who lives very close to London, and goes into London often. And my arse fell out when I read it, because there was no name. Of course, there was no description of the attacker or the attackers or the victim. There was no description, and it's one of the things that pisses me off about the media and the police. They need to give this information out straight away. They can't just say somebody was stabbed and died. If you got any information, let us know. Well, how the fuck do we know if we've got any information if you don't give us something to go on? We need to know what you're looking for, and then we can help you. But you don't. You don't give that information out, which not only hinders your attempts at locating the person and bringing them to justice, but it also leaves us open to danger as well as members of the public. If there's somebody going out on a rampage, you don't know whether it was a gang-related attack or whether it's some nutcase, the terrorist or whatever. You don't know. And so by not giving out a description, a full description, it leaves the rest of us open to potential attack as well. We can't protect ourselves. So you really need to think about that. This poor lad, 16 years of age, has his full life ahead of him. I don't know what to say. The Cressida Dick, Sadiq Khan and Boris Johnson are the three people that should be working hardest to fix this problem. Now, the issue is that they're not out on the streets. They don't understand what it's like for the normal person like you and I, who has to live our life in threat constantly. I live in an area that it's not fantastic. It's pretty quiet. It's not a fantastic area. I live quite close to where some of the murders and attempted murders have taken place in Liverpool over recent weeks. I get scared walking to the shop in case I'm mistaken as somebody else. Because these people aren't going to turn around and go, "Excuse me, are you so-and-so?" I'm not going to do that to find out if you're the right person. They're going to assume you're the right person and they're going to do you in. And that's a frightening prospect for anybody. If you've got kids, that's a frightening prospect. One of the things that I've sort of come to the conclusion of is that the police moan about budget cuts. The police moan about personnel cuts. And it's not just the police. It's, Boris Johnson has said about budget cuts and, with regards to the police, and that he's going to put 20,000 new, I think it was 20,000 new police officers on the streets. Now, if you think about it, if you put 20,000 new police officers on the street across the entire country, that's not very many new police officers, really. I think what needs to be done is, I think the police need to prioritise. We all know we've got Twitter patrol and, Facebook patrol, etc. And these people are looking for people that have said something that may be deemed as offensive. Even jokes that might be offensive. They have police personnel that aren't actual police officers that could be, these are ones that are sitting in offices I'm talking about. I mean, some of these could be trained to be community support officers. I know that community support officers don't really do a lot, but if there is a higher visibility of police on the street, then it might help to deter people from these kind of crimes. The police, Cressida Dick, Boris Johnson, Sadiq Khan, need to seriously sit down together, and or not even just together. You need some community leaders to sit down with you as well, okay? And you need to sit down and work out your priorities. What crimes are you going to deal with at the moment? The crimes that are going to cause people pain, the crimes that are going to cause people loss, okay? Common law, harm, loss, I think it's harm, loss or damage, I think. I can't off the top of my head. To be honest, my head's mashed after reading all of this and just thinking about these kids dying. But, let's think about it. Most of the stuff that the police force do at the moment is revenue generating exercises, fining people, driving offences. Yes, driving offences are bad, get that. But when you've got a driving offence versus a knife attack, what's more important? You need to cull the knife situation and the gun situation. And I think in order to do that, you need to stop concentrating on petty crimes. I'm not suggesting that people should get away with, with breaking the law. But you're police officers, you're supposed to know what law breaking is and what it isn't. And when you do things like, just because you get a bee in your bonnet because somebody refuses to give their information, for example, okay, or because someone's taking photos and you take, you take offence to that, to their taking photos, that shouldn't be even thought about. The police officers need to say to themselves, right, should I deal with this person taking a photo who has pissed me off because he won't give me his details? Should we teach him a lesson and waste 3-4 hours of our time as police officers? Or should we just let him get on with it and we'll go and find, we'll go and catch the criminals or go and prevent some crime? I get you don't know if a photographer, for example, is doing hostile reconnaissance or not. But instead of going up to somebody and saying to them, what are you doing? I want your name, address and date of birth. Oh, you're not going to give it to me? Right. Oh, little bastard won't give me his details. I'm going to nick you to teach you a lesson. Instead of all that shit, why don't you use your noddle, right, and say, okay, I can see you taking photos. Can you just do me a favour? Would you mind showing me, the last 10 photos you've taken? Just to ease my mind that you're not taking pictures of anything you shouldn't, and then I'll be on my way. Okay? Most people, I would like to think, are going to say, yeah, of course, officer, look. There you go. All I've been doing is taking a picture of that. I took a little video of that over there, that, whatever it might be. And that's it. I'm just a tourist, or, I'm just doing some street photography. Fantastic. Thank you very much. See you later. Gone. Okay? An interaction that's going to take 30 seconds. Rather than being a fucking idiot police officer who can't control their emotions, and they get the ump because somebody quite rightly refuses to give their details because they don't have to, and then decides to teach that person a lesson. And that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours that they're taken off the streets. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. You already do it now. When people phone up and say, my car's been broken into. Okay, no problem. We'll send someone round. A week later, somebody turns up. So you're already doing it, but you're just not doing it enough, and you're not doing it on the right crimes. Okay? Hurting somebody's feelings is not a crime. It's not. Offence is taken. It's not given. Taking photos generally is not a crime. obviously there's a few cases where it would be deemed as a crime, i.e. inappropriate photos of children, voyeurism, that kind of thing. But generally, most people will be taking legitimate photos or video, and they literally need it's a 30-second interaction before you move on. But you're not doing that. It's like the police are scared to do what they need to do until it happens. You should be there as a preventative as well. But because people know you're so busy fucking looking for people that have called somebody a name, and you're leaving kids to die in the gutter. I mean, this 16-year-old in Camden, he was due his GCSE results at the end of the month in a couple of weeks' time. Apparently he was a promising young footballer. You need to put more police on the street, not just in London, but around the country. You need to put more police on the streets. And I'm not talking just about recruiting more, because I don't really think that that's going to matter. Because the way things are going, the mindset in the police at the moment is to deal with crimes that are easy. That's what it seems like to me. And the only time they'll deal with serious crimes is when they have to. When they happen, rather than going and trying to prevent those crimes from happening. The day after, so yesterday, sorry, not the day after, so a bit later on in the day yesterday, I heard about a knife attack here in Liverpool, another one. I don't know if you remember a video I'd done a little while back. I was on my way to a place called Kirby here in Liverpool because a young lad had been stabbed and he died in a shop doorway. And on my way to go and cover that, there was a firearm discharge closer to me, so I went to that one instead. I think you remember that I was there, and the police were doing a search and whatnot for cartridges and weapons or whatever. Thankfully, they've caught the person who killed that lad in Kirby, who died in the doorway, shop doorway. But yet, in the same place, 4 people arrested after a slash attack on a man in Kirby neighbourhood. There's very little information, but a total of 4 people are under arrest. 5 p.m. yesterday, which would have been the 13th, the 13th. So 5 p.m. yesterday, 13th of August. A man in his 20s was found with multiple slash wounds, bleeding heavily as paramedics arrived on the scene. He's in a stable condition, thankfully, but again, this is an epidemic. And when you have an epidemic, you have to take extreme measures to deal with that epidemic. You need to prioritise what's important, what's more important. I'm not saying that low-level summary offences aren't important, but the indictable offences are more important than the summary offences. Summary offences generally are an expedition in revenue generation. So why not think about, I'm not talking about ignoring low-level crime. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about deal with the low-level crime when it happens, rather than trying to prevent the low-level crime. I know this might sound silly to some of you, but you've got to weigh up the pros and cons of this. Is it better to let the police continue prioritising low-level crime prevention and then dealing with indictable high-level offences when they happen, or should they be doing it the other way round and dealing with high-level crime prevention and dealing with low-level crime when it happens? And what I mean by that is, I'm not talking, I mean, again, you need to understand that low-level crime, there are crimes and there are non-crime. We already know the police are dealing with non-crimes. You know, they're being used as snowflakes, bodyguards. When a snowflake feels like somebody has offended them and the police go knocking on the door. What the fuck are you doing? Don't go knocking on people's doors for stuff like that because they've said something somebody else doesn't agree with. Forget that shit. This whole country's... Right. So many people in this country are turning into snowflakes and melting at everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. All I'm saying is that, as a suggestion, is maybe flip it and, as I say, just concentrate on high-level crime prevention and deal with the low-level crimes as and when they happen. But again, with the low-level crimes, actually make sure that they are crimes that you're dealing with. None of this fucking... this hurty word shit. Stop it. Just stop doing it. I don't mean stop the hurty words, because hurty words could be somebody's opinion that hurts somebody else's feeling. And opinions are valid. People's views are valid. I mean, stop enforcing or stop reinforcing the fact that people can use you, the police, as their personal bodyguards when somebody says something they don't agree with. This here, this is important. I'm sick to death of worrying about my kids, and I'm not the only one. I hate this country. I absolutely hate this country and what it's become. You know, one of the other things as well is and I know people are going to start calling me racist and all that crap, and to be honest, I don't really give a shit what you think about what I say. I will say what I believe, and I always will. I believe that a lot of people are being let into this country from war-torn countries or countries where carrying knives is normal, and they're being brought into this country with the habits, shall we say, that they've had all their life, having to fight, having to hurt people in order to stay alive. And they're being brought into this country with that background, with that ideology, if you like. And it's wrong. It is wrong. People are being let into the country, they come into the country and they're let off to go and do what the fuck they want. You know, I think people should, if you're going to let people into the country, they should be told. If you're coming here, don't care what it's for, whether it's fucking political asylum or whatever it might be for. If you come in here, you're going to get a job. If you haven't got a job in X amount of time, then you are fucking out of here. We'll let you in. But if you get into trouble just once, you are fucking out of here. But what happens? You let them in, you let them go and scurry off and do what the fuck they want. And it's, you know what I mean? How the fuck is that a way to run a country? Why are we not giving people a set of rules? And yes, we've got the law, and you expect people to follow the law. But not everybody, first of all, not everybody knows the law of the country they're going to. Not everybody wants to follow the law of the country they're going to. And so you need to let these people know. Anything. If you haven't got a job within such a time, then you're out of here, because you are a more of a risk of being a criminal, because you're going to need to start funding your life. If you are caught doing any kind of criminal act, then you're out of here, because we don't fucking need it. But we have politicians and we have snowflakes that simply want to open their arms and welcome every fucker into the country, regardless. But most of these people live in these little cloud worlds. You know, they don't live in the places where we live. They don't live the lives that we live. So they don't get to see it firsthand. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm sorry this is such a sombre video. I had to get this off my chest, to be honest, because it's upsetting. I don't know what to say. I panic daily about my kids, as I'm sure you all do. And we shouldn't be living in a world like this. We shouldn't be living in a country like this. There's a lot of people saying in the comments about the uprising that's coming and the civil war. And you know, I genuinely think something is going to happen at some point. We can't go on like this. We cannot continue down this road that we are on. This path is the wrong path. You need to be taking preventative measures for the high level crimes. You need to prioritise between the high level and the low level crimes. And you need to work out exactly why the fuck you're enforcing things that aren't crimes on the low level. You need to stop letting people into the country that are just let in and forgotten about. Literally forgotten about, which is why they can go and get away with stuff. They've got no paper trail. They've got, you know, people are easy to go and hide because you can't find them. Well, we already know that there are thousands of people that are in the country that the police have no idea where they are, or the border force have got no idea where they are. And it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And these are the things that need to be looked at the moment, right now, priority. Stop chasing people for parking in the wrong fucking place. Stop getting your back up because somebody refuses to give their details, which they're quite entitled to do, because they're taking photos in a public place. Like I say, I'll say to them politely, this is the problem. Most of the police have got such a fucking attitude. Go up to somebody, excuse me sir, madam, I'm not here to bother you or anything like that, okay, but can you just please show me the last 10 photos on your phone or on your camera? It'll alleviate my worries that you may be doing something wrong, and then I can just get off and get on with my way and I won't need to bother you anymore. I think most people would probably turn, I mean, that may not be exactly the words that you'd want to use, but I think most people are going to turn around and say, yeah, of course, no problem, look, that's what I've been doing, no worries. And you are going to save so much time. Most of the incidents with cameras that I see on videos, and even my own, could have been dealt with in seconds, but yet it took 7-8 hours, you know? 2 police officers off the street for 7 or 8 hours per photographer, let's say. That's a lot of time taken away from dealing with actual crimes. And last thing, if you're out and about, because these fucking scumbags need to be caught. They need to be stopped, they need to be caught. If we can't stop them hurting somebody, then we can stop them hurting another person. If you're out and about and you see somebody hurting somebody, try and get a picture, try and get a video. Try and help if you can without putting your life in too much danger. If somebody's banging on your door and you can clearly see that they're distressed and they need help, let them in, phone the police straight away. We have to help each other, people, as human beings. We've got to be there for one another, because the police aren't there for us, the people that are supposed to protect us. So we have to be there for each other. I'm leaving it there, guys. Thank you for watching, and until next time.
Good night, all.